Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Juni's Café, a podcast where we learn, share, and grow by putting our thoughts into the ether. I'm your host, Juni. Before we begin, let me just say thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate you. It's a small community, but the support really just means a lot, especially with, everything going on. And I hope you have a very lovely day. I really think that eyeshadow color on you looks amazing. Today, with me, I have a very, 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 very special guest, my friend for many years. I'm bad at math. Kai, welcome. Woohoo! Clap, 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 clap,
Hi.
clap. We were talking. We had been talking. It's not like we stopped talking. But how have you been during this? I'm gonna say, I was with you for a good amount of time for the pandemic, but in terms of like 2021, how has like this year been for you so far?
I mean, if we're putting it into like perspective, realistically, it's been okay. Like I've been just at the same job, working from home. And so that comes with like a couple of privileges, obviously, working from home. But I mean, we're still living in a pandemic, still, and the expectations, particularly of like employers wanting you to keep producing as if we were not in a pandemic, as if people are not, you know, going through really, really hard times. And I don't know, it's the mental and emotional toll that it's taken on me and a lot of other people is just a lot.
Yeah, I feel like with I think I'm very public and outspoken about my disdain for capitalism. It's not like I'm subtle about it. Um, and even with my coworkers and like my boss, I'll just I won't outright tell my boss I hate capitalism and screw this company. But it's not like I'm like, oh, I love this company and I love money and I think money should rule the world because money's fake. Like, it's not really real.
No, it's made up.
Yeah. Uh, One thing that for me, I've been trying to do a lot through this, oh my god, year. It's been almost, it's been like,
Yeah, it's March already. It's March
oh my
again.
god, yeah.
Here we go.
Here we go, right? One thing that I've been
I feel
trying to
like a
like
lot of
do.
times. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
No, I just feel like a lot of the times, like, in order to keep moving, you kind of have to just take a deep breath and just acknowledge it. Yep, this is a year-long pandemic so far. Our government is not helping us. Capitalism sucks. Take a deep breath and let's carry on with our daily lives because we're expected
Yeah,
to.
and I think the part that kind of like makes me feel a little extra not nice is the fact that like other countries have had pretty successful um
Yeah.
like results, and like they're doing pretty well. Like some people are like able to walk about, some people don't even need to wear masks, like some countries just are able to,
I've
you
heard
know.
that some countries, like, they're having concerts again, having parties again, and that just seems like such a far off concept here. Like, I've heard some people talking about, like, oh, I sure hope it's over by summer. How? Please. I
Yeah,
would like
like
to know.
I
I
would,
want to be hopeful, but
yes, I would love for it to be over by summer, but I just don't want to get my hopes up. I know that some people say that like around, I think like the prediction is June with like the vaccination rates,
mhm.
but I'm not, you know, I'm not like holding my breath. I Of course, because um like I would love to celebrate my birthday like properly,
Yeah.
which is in August. So of course I'm very biased and I'm very, I'm like I need to. But, if it's not possible, I can celebrate it any other Friday the 13th, then nothing's gonna stop me.
Yeah. I
Uh,
Speaking of birthdays, honestly, I drove past this house in my neighborhood the other day, and it had a sign outside that said like happy second birthday. And I was sitting there like, wow, this kid, half of their life they've just been indoors, you know? And like I've heard stories of like kids that get overwhelmed when they're in like highly public situations now because they're just not used to it anymore. Like I don't know. The effects that we're gonna have from all of this are gonna be very long lasting.
yeah, I think even if we do end up going outside, or like I think for me, because personally I'm a very anxious person.
Hmm.
Um, I think for me is like even if I do end up going outside, which I would love, I've talked to y'all about like, oh my god, once this is all over, we need to go clubbing. I
Oh
want to
yeah.
make stupid decisions again,
I
but
miss feeling young.
yeah, right. I feel like
I'm just at
being
home all
indoors like
day. I'm
this,
like trying crocheting and stuff.
like stuff like this, like makes me feel older, and I'm like, I need to. I know that people have compared like this time to the Renaissance. How like once the or that's what they're predicting is like
Hmm.
once everything is over, it'll be like a new sexual awakening and like a Renaissance period where people are going to be really liberated,
Hmm.
and looking forward to that. Awesome, but I'm probably it's gonna take some easing into because of like the anxiety of like so many things just really got brought up into light. Like for example, like bowling alleys. You just stuck your hand in there and then
All the
like
sanitation. I think that I remember at the beginning of the pandemic last year, like the New York subways had announced that they were like cleaning now. And it's like, well, hang on, were you not cleaning before?
like
So,
and it's just goes to show how like oh like we let these corporations, this government, these companies just do the bare minimum, and just they would get away with it for so long, but now because like their lives are at risk or their like wallets are at risk, that's when it gets like
yeah.
that's when they're like let's do something about it,
Yeah.
um, and it's just been hard. Uh, One thing that I've done to sort of like cope, no, I wouldn't say cope, or something that I've been trying to do to, while I have this, you know, time and like indoors and I don't really have anything else to do besides work,
Mhm.
is try to like reconnect with like my spiritual side,
Yeah.
which has been interesting in a way. I've been trying to figure out like because in a I grew up in like different spiritual settings, and I've always been spiritual, but I've always felt like I didn't know like how like spirituality defined me, and I feel like this year has been one that I'm like, yeah, I want to learn more about this, try different things, and like experiment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Have you had a similar experience, or have you had anything different that you've tried to focus on throughout this past year?
Well, I've always like growing up I had kind of a weird relationship with faith and religion and spirituality. Because I was baptized Catholic and most of my family is Catholic. But my mom did like encourage a lot of free thought when it came to our beliefs. And so just everything that I've always felt, everything that I've believed in, it just never aligned with the Catholic Church. I'll just leave it at that. And so I started kind of exploring different ideologies, different beliefs, different religions. And it wasn't until I got to college that I don't know why I hadn't considered it, but I started looking into paganism and like looking into those different branches in that. Um, and honestly, I personally feel, because I used to identify more as agnostic. I'm not really sure what I identify as now. I just know that my spirituality is more tied with um, kind of, I guess, my like the belief that we are all connected, we're all one, we all like should treat each other with respect, you know, care for each other, care for the earth, and the earth will care for you. So that's kind of what I've been vibing with, and it personally it's been helping me get through uh, all of the negative feelings and thoughts associated with everything that we've been going through. um, there's I feel like personally I feel like there's a lot in nature that can help you with like moods and emotions and just kind of making you feel a little bit better about a crappy situation.
Oh, I love that. That was a really beautiful description. You mentioned that you had a Catholic upbringing. How old? Do you remember how old you were when you first started thinking, this ain't for me?
I mean, ever since I can remember my first mass, I'll be honest with you. And it wasn't okay, this is gonna sound pretty childish, but keep in mind that I was a child at the time, and I'm gonna be honest, it still kind of holds true. I just did not have the attention span of sitting through like 1.5+ hours of Spanish Catholic mass, just sitting there, and then like I wouldn't even be able to pay attention to what the pastor or preacher priest. See, I don't even know what he's
The
called in English actually. El sacerdote.
Oh, I think that's
Um,
priest.
priest. Okay, yeah. And so I didn't even like I couldn't even focus on what he was saying. So it was just boring to me. And then like the more I found out about like Catholicism, it was just I I didn't identify with it. It was more like I don't know if maybe like I just didn't get the right education about what Catholicism is, but from everything that I was learning and everything that I had been taught almost, it felt like Catholicism was more of a like everyone is a sinner, you are bad, you have to repent and you have to try and be a better person. And if you're not like if you don't repent and be a better person, then you're going to hell. And I don't know, that's kind of like scary to me, like dang, I was born bad. And like why? Why was I born a sinner? It just I don't know, that personally did not click with me. And then of course growing up and then like coming to terms with my queerness, it just Christianity in general has not been very welcoming to me personally,
Hmm.
when it comes to that queerness. So it's definitely I've stayed away from it.
Did you come out to your family as non-Catholic, or like did you tell your parents or your family that you didn't believe in Catholicism or Christianity?
Not in so many words, but more in like actions. Like whenever my mom wanted to take us to church, obviously I'd put up a fight. And then like whenever we do talk about religion or God, I don't know. I guess I haven't.
Mm,
My mom knows that I'm not Catholic, like a devout Catholic, but don't I haven't like said that.
mm.
My sister did come out to me at one point as not Catholic, and so that was pretty cool because I'm gonna be honest, I hadn't thought of like coming out as a different religion to be a thing. So it kind of made me chuckle.
No, yeah, it's a thing. It's something that I really didn't think about because um, people do it, especially in families where it's like one specific religion, and like especially like with Christian families, it's like, oh, I'm not Christian, and that's like a heavy thing. My
Mhm.
sister did it, and so for reference, my grandma. is Christian. She's very Christian, and whenever she would take care of us, whenever my mom was working during the summers, and that would be a lot of the times during the summers, my grandma would take care of us for extended periods of time. She would take us to Sunday school, and we would learn the verses, and we would go to school. So my mom didn't raise us Christian, but because my grandma spent a lot of time with my sister and I, we absorbed a lot of that, and because my dad's side of the family was Christian, we also absorbed a lot of that from his side of the family. So even though my mom, like, she wasn't Christian, like, whatsoever, like, everyone else in the family was. So I felt a lot of like that kind of Christian guilt, for some parts because of my queerness. But as soon as I moved out of Puerto Rico and came to Texas, I was like, yeah, I'm like I'm not Christian. Like, who was I fooling? I had started practicing and doing magic. This was before I even like knew that my other members of my family, like my sister, well, and my mom, and then my sister eventually, practiced magic. Like when I was 10, I started like doing magic on my own and like practicing like witchcraft. And I knew, and at first it was just me and like this other girl who was in my class, and it was sort of like a game at first, but then we were like, oh, but we wanted to like take it seriously, you know? But as kids, it was
Yeah.
like, we're taking it seriously, but we're not really realizing what it is. So we didn't like
Yeah.
really think that deep into it. Um, but then as we grew up, and it's like a thing that people say, it's like if you're meant to be what you kind of like, it'll lead you into the way, and you can always choose it, and you can always like it I feel like it's like what's meant to be is meant to be sometimes. um but the funny thing is that like my before my sister, like my sister had practiced some witchcraft, like as like in middle school and elementary school a little bit, but mostly it was just like tarot cards, and like when my mom would get her tarot cards reading. But in Puerto Rico, like anyone can get their tarot cards read. Like you don't have to be like a witch, or you don't have to believe in like magic to get your tarot cards read. It's like, you will see Christians, people like they'll get their tarot cards read because it's like the thing that we're doing that day. um so like that didn't necessarily mean like, oh, we're, that's just normal. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're witches. When I was 14, my sister was 13, or I think she was 14 and I was 15 or whatever. My sister was hanging out with this friend, and this friend of hers would take her to church, and they would go to church on Sundays and Wednesdays. That was twice a week, not like once. It was twice a week, which, in hindsight, like, I was like, damn, that's like a lot of church for 1 week, in my opinion.
Yeah, in my opinion. I mean, if that's your jam, that's your jam, but
Yeah, yeah. And I'm glad that like that fills people with light, but I don't know, that felt, from an outside perspective, it felt like really intense. And I remember that me and my mom would be talking, and it was like, Dami's like, she's being like, she's spending a lot of time in church. Do you think she's like Christian? And then my mom was like, what? No, what? No, she's just hanging out with her friend. And then my sister one day was like, my sister went up to my mom one day, and she was like, Mom, I need to tell you something, but like, promise you won't be mad at me? Like, she was sitting down, she was like, it was like an emotional thing.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'm like going to church, and I'm Christian, and like I believe in the Bible, and like it was like, and fun fact, my mom's reaction was like, it wasn't like violent or anything, but inside it was like, how could this have happened? Because my mom, like growing up, like I didn't have a good relationship with Christianity. I don't believe based on like the experiences that I've known about, like my mom hasn't had a good experience with Christianity.
Mhm.
If my sister has had good experiences with Christianity, that's great, and I'm really happy that she has had that,
Yeah.
the ability to do so. Um, but that wasn't the case for me and my mother. But I think it was funny that that happened, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of it's valid because it's a valid concern that people have when your other family don't believe the same way.
Yeah.
But when you think of coming out, it's usually like a queer experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And Christianity is more widely accepted
Yeah.
than most other most anything, honestly.
I think it's funny how nowadays there's even people that say stuff like, I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna do it. I'm coming out as conservative, Republican, Christian. I'm like,
Well,
oh no.
okay.
Oh,
Watch
watch out.
out.
Do you think that, do you think your parents or your family's experience, or the way that they view you would change if they knew that you weren't Catholic?
For my extended family, I'm gonna be honest, 100% yes. Because we actually, okay, so well, on my dad's side of the family, um, he has, like, all of my aunts are very, very, very devout Catholic women,
Mm,
like very like religious. Every time I talk to them, oh hello, like God bless you. I hope that God like shines down on you and like what and like all
uh,
the Facebook comments.
yeah, yeah.
And so it's very very God heavy, and very like they all go to church, and of course this is back in El Salvador, so it is the Catholicism is the official religion there, and so they're like most people do go to church every Sunday. um, Most people believe in God, in Catholicism. There are a couple of like Christian Baptist churches, but it's mainly Catholicism. So I think that for them, it would definitely change. For my mom's side of the family, interestingly enough, there is an aunt. I think it was one of my grandma's sisters, maybe, or I don't know. It was a relative that was like older. She's passed a couple like decades ago now, but there was always rumors in the family that she did witchcraft, and every time that it was brought up, it was never brought up in a positive light.
Mm,
So it definitely would affect the way that they also see me. And so because of that, I'm sure that my mom has also internalized some of those beliefs. And
mm,
like I guess as a result, I also kind of internalized those beliefs. So I was like initially really scared to be like, well, maybe I don't believe in a Christian, Catholic, or whatever God. Because then I was like, well, what if I'm wrong? I'll go to hell. I'll go to Catholic hell. um, One thing that's gotten me through is realizing that these are colonizer religions. Like
yeah.
they came here, they set up missionaries, and they like took indigenous people, and they assimilated. Like this is not like this was not set in stone from when the world was created. If you believe that, you're absolutely valid. That is not my personal belief. It was not the beliefs of like indigenous people, my ancestors. Like I don't. It's no longer something that I identify with.
Was there like a turning point or like a specific memory that you have with your relationship with Catholicism?
No, I think it was just kind of a build-up. Oh, actually, no. You know what? There was a very dramatic moment in high school because you knew me in high school. You knew that I was
Yeah.
so edgy and emo and dramatic. And so like I was in that phase where like anything was a sign. And like I
Mm,
mean, obviously, still kind of in that phase.
yeah.
But it was like I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try out Catholicism one last time, right? And so I started wearing this cross necklace that I had gotten from El Salvador a couple years back. and it was like a really cool necklace. It's like metal or whatever. Um, and I was just like, the first day I wore it, it broke, and like it literally fell off of my neck and fell onto the floor, and the cross literally broke. So I was like, God, have you forsaken me?
Okay, but like that's I feel like that's a sign.
That
I
was
mean
a pretty solid sign. I did take that as a pretty solid sign of like, you know what, maybe something's going on. Maybe this isn't for me. And who knows? Was it like a different like deity who was like, yeah, don't believe in that god? Was it my ancestors being like, hey, you're being stupid? Like, was it like, I don't know what it was, but I definitely took it as a sign. You know, it could have just
yeah.
been like a poorly built necklace that happened to fall and happened to like break in the like it hit the tile and it broke. So like, you know, it could have been a multitude of things, but I personally chose to take that as a sign, and I feel happier because of it.
Yeah, I for sure. I feel like for me, I didn't really have. I feel like I have like memories attached to my relationship with Christianity. Again, I don't really remember what um like denomination my grandma was. I think she was like Baptist or like Protestant or something. Um, I don't know how Catholicism really isn't that common in Puerto Rico. It's like common, but it's not like as common as it is in like Mexico or like El Salvador, for example,
The
where
Central America area.
yeah, like Central American areas like a lot more like it's extremely Catholic.
Yeah.
Um, but like in the Caribbean, you will see a lot of Santeria, which is like Catholicism, but like with witchcraft, with like African witchcraft.
Yeah.
Um, and like that's like really awesome. I personally don't practice Santeria. I no, I don't personally practice Santeria. Like I know that I my my mother's friends are santeras, and or like her friends back in Puerto Rico. Like she had friends who were santeras, um, but that was like never something that I personally like practiced in an extensive like manner, because like some of the spells and magic that you have to use for santeria are like some things that I personally don't really feel comfortable with, or things that I would be able to do at least at this point in my life. But also there was a lot of like negative connotation, like how you said that your family would like talk bad about like
Yeah.
witchcraft. Um, in Puerto Rico, it's like there are santeros and santeras, but like the way that people would talk about it was like, oh, you know, like she's practicing santeria, and I was like, okay, but like so does everyone. Like there's so many people. Like the act of like just the act of like lighting a candle with the like a
The little
picture
tall
of a
candles.
saint.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that is like an act of santeria. Like that is, you know, because like praying to a saint is a very Catholic thing, but it's also a very like common thing to do in santeria. No, of
Well, and
course.
if you, sorry to
Oh,
interrupt.
go
Well,
ahead.
like because I have done like quite a bit of research on like different religions and stuff like that, because I wanted to find something that kind of resonated with me, and a lot of the things that different religions do kind of have like a similar thing in other religions, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
praying and like lighting a candle and stuff like that. That's essentially manifesting and setting your intentions, you know? It's like meditating and like centering yourself. It's all very, I don't know. I feel like there's so much for a lack of better word, I guess, discourse. Super understatement, biggest understatement, discourse surrounding different religions.
The
But
religion fandom is like having a
they're having a moment. They've been having a moment for a couple of millennia now.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, a lot of these belief systems have a lot more in common than they would think.
I truly think so. I think that's something that I've been trying to like juggle, because I the way that I practice my magic is like I love to draw in a respectful way, of course. I love to draw from like other spiritualities and get that because I, of course, my biggest source of spirituality is like my ancestry,
Mhm.
and that's the Taino people and like their deities, and then the deities of the slaves that were brought in to the Caribbean, and like how their gods became I would say popular in the Caribbean, but like not really. But like they continue to be worshipped across the Caribbean in like smaller communities. Obviously, not to the same extent or level that they would be like back, before like slavery ever happened.
Mhm.
Um, but like that's where I began to draw like my spirituality, especially as I grew older. I think for the longest time, even when I tried to do witchcraft, I was trying to do like the whitest version of witchcraft. Which,
Yeah.
no offense to anyone that practices Wicca, I respect you. I respect you. I really do. But it is the whitest like version of like witchcraft that there is, and I feel like a lot of people that practice Wicca just are very like it's like whenever they talk about spirituality, they talk about it with white privilege. I'm like, stop trying to like there's like this phrase that's like, stop Wicca explaining this, like like you don't have to like especially because they feel like everything is theirs, like
Yeah.
um because there are some practices that are closed that you have to be
Yeah.
born into. You can't just practice. You either have to be born into it or you have to be adopted into that practice, or like there's like a process to this. You can't just be like, I'm gonna do this. It's and that's something that made me realize, like, and then as I was learning more about Wicca and like how like their practices are, and how it just felt very unnatural for me, even though I thought a
Mhm.
lot of it was very beautiful, and I do have some overlap, like my personal beliefs do have some overlap with Wiccan beliefs. I realized that it just wasn't, as a specific like subsect of witchcraft, it wasn't for me, and I think that's why I enjoy practicing witchcraft in the first place, because it was very diverse. Like it was like
Yeah.
there's no one right way to do it. Like there's like Wicca, there's druids, there's green witchcraft, which is very similar to druidism but not the same.
Absolutely. I think that that's the aspect that I really like, is just that you're essentially free to believe whatever you want. I have looked into like Wicca, and there are definitely some great beliefs in there. For me personally, it just doesn't feel complete. Like it feels like there's something missing from it. And
Mhm.
I've like met some like awesome people. One of my friends is like practices Wicca, and like they're pretty awesome, and like the way that they practice is amazing. It Not for me personally. Um,
Mhm.
I haven't found something in specific that like I can base my beliefs or my practices off of,
Mhm.
because most of the like older religion, like pre-colonization, like beliefs that I've been able to find are mainly European based. And then the ones that I do find that are like more South America, like Central America regions and Caribbean regions. Well, Caribbean has their own like rich culture, but for Central America, I don't know, maybe I haven't been searching hard enough. If anybody has any recommendations on what I can read to like learn up on that, that'd be awesome, because I have not found anything.
Yeah, I can definitely give you some resources on that later, because there are some of the people that originally inhabited uh, the Caribbean actually they had like different tribes and like different
Hmm.
like sub communities
Yeah.
across Central America. Obviously, like subcultures and like
Yeah.
different dialects. So like it was the same language, but like different so like in Chinese there's like Mandarin and Cantonese.
Yeah.
Like that was basically how it was with the Arawakan people, which it was like, I'm like, if you're like a historian and you're listening to this and like I'm getting this wrong, like that's fine. Just call me out on it. Like I understand that like I'm not
We
perfect,
do not have
but
history degrees.
yeah, like I'm not claiming this was 100% correct, but it was like the Arawakans came like that's like it came first, and then like it was the Taino people, and then like some other groups, but I could be 100% wrong because the Taino were the people that like were there when like Columbus arrived.
Mhm.
And then I think there were some more Atawakans like throughout um, some parts of like Central and South America that were like close to the coast of um of
The
the like
Caribbean.
the place, yeah, like closer to the Caribbean, like the actual like places that would touch the Caribbean,
Mhm.
because they were like coastal tribes. um Whereas, of course, like if you go closer to to South and Central American like mainlands, you would see um, some of the like tribes that are still alive and like still thriving today
Yeah.
in some communities, which like is one thing that the part of me is like low-key kind of jealous of. It's like I wish that there were Caribbean native communities that are still able to thrive. In Puerto Rico, personally, there are communities that are still trying to revive and practice um, that um, that like those beliefs and the traditions, but
Mm.
they're not. It's like the history books are like they're not there, so you can't really you can't. It's like very half-assed. Fun fact: back in like I think it was like back in 2010 or something, a couple of years ago. I didn't know about this, but they discovered like one untouched like family of native Tainos that were never found out about civil, like they probably knew about civilization, but like they just were
They
left
decided to
there.
not.
Yeah, they
Wow.
were like not bothered. They never learned Spanish. Wish that were me. Like they just were there like practice. So like I'm sure that by now, since throughout all the years, the way that they speak the Taino language is probably slightly different
Mhm.
as languages evolve. But I don't. Again, I wouldn't know. Um, and I just thought about that, and I was like, it made me a little happy. No, it made me happy because I was like, wow, that's great. It's not like it's and they left them alone. I don't know if they're still leaving them alone or what the case is. I don't trust the Puerto Rican government, but um, I think it's I don't know. I think that's
That's
thinking about that.
amazing. I don't know.
Yeah,
I hate the way that, I mean, like, that's the point of colonization, is to like kill cultures, you know? So I
yeah.
really hate that, but I admire the cultures that are still like trying to thrive and like succeeding in like here in the US, we do have like indigenous communities who are still alive, still like trying to revive their culture, trying to get their land back, you know? And then in like, for example, in El Salvador, there is still indigenous populations of the Pipiles, as they're called. But
Mhm.
because of corruption in their government and just colonization, white supremacy, all of the above, capitalism, all of the above, a lot of indigenous people in El Salvador live in poverty, or below poverty levels, and so it's hard to keep a culture alive when the government is intent on letting you die out.
Uh, yeah, especially with like a pandemic, and like so many people in like these like native communities, and like it's like they're dying and they don't have the same access to resources as people like you and I that are able to just like stay like we're able to eat like we have easier access to news, we have better access to resources that are able to keep us alive, whereas some of these um I don't know what the proper word is. It's a, like a space that's a reserve. They have
Yeah.
uh, they have like one supermarket, you know? So it's
Yeah,
like
poor infrastructure, like lack of running water, lack of clean water, like uh, the lack of utilities, it's and like like and here in like the United States, how they have not honored any of the treaties that they promised, or at least that I'm referring to the United States government.
no, yeah,
If that wasn't
yeah,
clear, I just want to
no,
clarify.
yeah. Yeah, it's like what are you like, no respect whatsoever um
And then,
for
you know
that.
what I think? I don't know. I have always, like, since I was young, I was just like, I don't know. All these people are really mad that immigrants are coming in here, but where did all of these Europeans come from? I'm confused.
Exactly, which is so
What
funny
were
because
you? Shut up. like.
yes, because like they came in and their whole purpose was I want to I need to escape religious
Yeah,
prosecution.
right?
And I'm just like, that
Interesting.
sounds it's kind of like sounds that's I mean, I don't know, like just sounds like when y'all were escaping religious prosecution, like that was handy dandy, let's set up I don't know what's it called, Quakerville or some shit like that. But like now it's like oh, they need to do it the right way. They need to like go through like they need to check their x's and o's.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I'm like, borders are fake, you know.
God, they're so
Like
fake.
the concept of borders and like border patrol, like, okay. And then people talking about like you need to go back to your country when these people have been like this is their land, or the in some cases the border moved across them,
Hmm.
like back when because we're from Texas, so Texas, I'm sure if anyone knows anything about like vague like or like mild US history,
I
you'll
mean,
be
like, who
somewhat
doesn't know
familiar.
US history? I feel like the US broadcasts its history on a megaphone. It's revised history on a megaphone
Yes.
just daily into the
Ye-
global economy or whatever.
yes. So the the state of Texas had like three separate like things. It was owned by
Actually, it
it was
had
part of
six
Mexico.
different flags. It's six different flags have flown over Texas.
Really? See, I didn't
Hmm.
know that. Um, so it was owned by Mexico, and then it was also its own country for a little bit, which no Texan will let you forget. If like no
No
Texan
Texan will let
will
you forget
let
that.
you forget that. By the way, Texas was its own country, and if we wanted to, we could be our own country again. It's like, why aren't you then? Like, why aren't you? And then they they were a part of the United States, the yeah, like the Union. Which, by the way, I'll be quite honest, I think the name United States is so stupid. I hate the name United States because, and here's why. When I refer to people that are from the United States of America, it's like Americans, but that's not everyone that's
Dude,
from America
my
is American.
parents always got so upset with me because, like growing up in American school,
Mhm.
America's number one. So it's all very US centric. And so whenever I would like casually say, oh, like America does this or America this, my parents would be like, America? What America? Are you talking about the entire continent? And I would
Okay,
have to
same.
clarify.
Same, and like people that are here in the U.S., like they just talk about they talk about America like it's the country, but
Yeah.
America is not a country. If you go to like other places and you say, "Oh, I'm from North America," or "I'm from America," like they'll be like, "Oh, which part?" Or like it's like you can't. Um, in Spanish, like there's a word for United States like citizen. It's like estadounidense. Um,
Hmm.
and I love that Spanish has that. Not all other languages have this.
Yeah.
In French, it's just American. In Japanese, it's also American. Um, it's like I'm sure. other languages probably have a proper word for United States citizen, but like English doesn't have one, and you would think they would, but it's just American. And I feel like you can call it like a, I don't know. I feel like there should be a word, because I feel like if you say, "Oh, I'm American," then it's like,
Yankee.
okay. I think Yankee is like a valid term, but I feel like people would take offense to that.
I think that definitely people would take offense to that, but I do think that there are countries who like use Yankee derogatory when referring to people from the United States.
in 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 Puerto. Wait, I think I don't know if y'all did this too. We just call them gringos. We just call,
Yeah.
but it's like that's like white people, but like we particularly use gringo for like the US,
Mhm.
because anyone that, I mean, we didn't really have that many experiences with white people um from like the UK or Europe. Um and gringo is like specifically like English speaker. It's not just like a white person.
Yeah.
It's like a English speaker. Someone that like only speaks English. Because like you can call a Latinx person a gringo or a gringa as an insult. Like
Yeah.
if you call like a white person gringo, it's like that's not an insult. I mean, they may take offense to it, but it's not derogatory. But if you call someone that's not a gringo, that's an insult. Like I have been called gringo, and I was offended. Like I was hurt, and do you uh, is there a question in regards to your spirituality? Uh, um, since I know that we're like running out of time, did you have like any goals, or when you were trying to like get into like your spiritual like side, or was there something that you were trying to get out of it?
Well, I think that my personal belief is that like everyone needs something to believe in. You know,
Hmm.
whether it be a Christian God, whether it be in the earth, in the sun, whether it be in science, whether you believe in yourself, or whether you believe in nothingness, there's like something has to keep you going, you know? So I guess like for me, spirituality is a way that I can almost reassure myself that like things are gonna work out. Um, I feel like a lot of like times you hear that bad things happen to good people and like stuff like that. And if I were to believe that, I'd get pretty sad, and that's another understatement.
Yeah.
So I'm my quest is just to like find something that makes me feel fulfilled, something that gives me a purpose, and like makes the things I do meaningful. And like not necessarily just like in the grand scheme of things of like the universe, like, oh, I did this, like I held a door open for an old lady, give me some good karma, but also in the sense of like I did a genuine thing, whether it be like I did something with good intentions and I was honest about it, and I did it keeping in mind like the feelings of others and how I would be able to help others or like take care of other people. I feel like personally I believe that that would also, I guess, get repaid to me in kind somehow in the universe, not like in a like necessarily karmic sense, but just like, I guess, vibes, energy. I'm putting the good energy out there and I want to attract good energy back.
I love that. I think that's a really beautiful way of being and existing. Um, okay, so we've come to the end. Before we close off, did you have anything that you want to promote, like social media projects that you're working on, or anything of the sort?
You can follow me on Instagram at Poisonous Walrus. Self-taught artist. Haven't released anything yet, but I am working on a comic with one of my friends. You can follow him at Stars and Monsters, I believe, on Instagram. Comics about a ghost boy and his ragtag group of friends, and it's gonna be super dope, super epic. He's got a lot of good stuff coming up, so watch out on that.
Ah, I love that. Well, thank you so much. If you like this podcast, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, and please turn on the notification bell, please, so you can be notified when I upload new content. Pretty please. I love y'all so much. I hope you have a very, very lovely day, and please stay safe. Bye bye. Hey guys, it's Juni. Just wanted to add um, a little footnote. Kai felt like their description of the Stars and Monsters um, comic um, was a little empty, so they sent me a better bio and synopsis for it, as well as the correct Instagram handle for the author of the comic. So the title is called Stars and Monsters. It is a work in progress comic. The story follows Ghostfoot, a traveler whose mind is split between two dimensions, and a group of heroes, each with a unique ability. They find themselves stranded in a desolate wasteland filled with endless monsters and have to learn to trust each other and confront their past in order to make it safely back home. You can follow the author of Stars and Monsters at sickbeat.starsandmonsters. That's sick beat with a Y. That dot stars and monsters. The author is Sickbeat, and the illustrator is, of course, Kai. Um, please check them out. They are both amazingly talented artists, and I'm going to leave that handle in the bio as well. That's all. Anyway, of course, thank you so much for listening. Bye.